Welcome in, everybody, to the 423 Football Podcast. Today is our 2018 NFL Draft Preview Show. We had our mock draft last week, so this is going to be just a little more added on to that, talking more NFL Draft. It's only a few days away, so we are back again to talk draft and potential steals in the draft, bust, anything you can think of. It's just draft. That's all we've been thinking of the past couple months, and now it's finally here. We're talking about it, and so let's get into it. I'm your host, Brandon Bouchard, joined here by Brett Hamilton.
Hello.
And before we get into everything draft-related like we usually do, we're going to talk news real quick. Just a few things to point out. C.J. Anderson has been released by the Broncos, so they're going to be looking for a running back in this draft. Possibly, if they trade back in the first round, they might be looking for one early in the draft. But I kind of tend to think they're going to wait on a running back and take one maybe third, fourth round. There's plenty of guys out there.
Yep.
Yeah. And also, from C.J. Anderson's point of view, whoever goes and picks him up, they're going to get a good running back. He's been underused, underappreciated for a long time. I get there's some injury concerns. There's injury concerns with a lot of running backs, but C.J. Anderson, I believe in this guy, and he really hasn't gotten the full workload that he deserves in the past.
Yeah, you've definitely been the resident C.J. Anderson truther. He burned me a couple years ago, and I never forgave him, so...
Gotta get the salt out. Gotta get the salt out.
Nope, still holding the grudge.
Brandon Marshall has been released by the Giants, so a hole has opened up there. We also had Dez Bryant a few weeks ago, or last week, got cut by the Cowboys, and Dez was seen working out at the Giants facility with Odell Beckham. Do you buy into anything, Dez possibly going to the Giants?
No. I just think that that's just too much personality for one team to handle.
I mean, I agree with that, but I mean, teams could think differently, and if they're working out together,
I don't think that Dez's ego will allow him to go somewhere with Odell Beckham.
See, the only way this is going to happen, and really, Dez his talent and his ability, I think, has deteriorated to a level where he can't be the number one guy anymore. So if he can get that...
I don't think he knows that, though.
That's the thing. If he can get that through his mind, then I think it could be okay. But
I don't think he's going anywhere where he knows that there's a clear number one wide receiver that's better than him. I don't think he's going anywhere like that.
The thing that's weird, it's basically what the Giants did last year with Brandon Marshall. It's the same situation. It's the same type of player. It's a guy who doesn't really get that great of separation.
They're very similar style.
He's a jump ball, red zone type of guy. They've had injury issues. That's what Brandon Marshall dealt with last season. Yep. And now we have Dez maybe going there, and we know what he's been dealing with. He's had foot injuries, back injuries, all kinds of things going on with Dez. So I think it could work out, but it really I don't see people saying like, oh, if Dez went to the Giants, this would be just the greatest thing ever, best wide receiver duo in the league right off the bat.
No.
I mean, maybe a few years ago, yes, but not anymore. I still think Dez, his talent has kind of gone downhill.
Yep.
Ravens signed Willie Snead. They also had signed Michael Crabtree and John Brown a few weeks ago, so they are revamping that wide receiver core big time. Yeah. You're not going to see guys like Kamara Aiken out there anymore. Guys like Rashad Perriman. You're not going to see those kind of guys. Mike Wallace is obviously gone. So this is a whole new wide receiver core. You got your three guys potentially right there, and they might be looking in the draft to snag a wide receiver as well.
Yeah, we were thinking in our podcast for our last mock draft podcast that I was thinking that they would go wide receiver in the first round, but maybe not since they're just signing everyone in free agency.
Yeah, and speaking of the mock draft podcast, thank you to all listeners who tuned into that, especially our YouTube listeners, because that was by far our most views we've ever had on an episode. Especially from YouTube. YouTube, maybe that's the future there. We'll start putting videos up possibly in the future, but yeah, keep watching, keep tuning in, get everyone to tune in, subscribe, and everything like that. But just a shout out to the listeners. Thank you. Rob Gronkowski initially expected to be traded before the start of the 2018 season. That was the first report, and then a report came out today saying Gronk is expected to play with the Patriots in the 2018 season. So I don't really know what to believe here.
I have no idea.
Honestly, it's just the smokescreen that is the New England Patriots. You don't know what's happening all the time. It's just once the season starts, you know what's going on. That's about it. So we're going to be talking about this for a while. I feel like we're not going to get much information other than people making wild speculations. And I don't really want to try to do that. But if I were a betting man, I'd probably say that Brady and Gronkowski are both going to be on the field for New England come 2018 season.
That would be my prediction as well.
Yep.
So let's get into the meat of the episode.
Meat and potatoes.
We're talking all about this NFL draft that takes place this coming weekend. We're going to start off talking about some bold predictions. Give me one bold prediction that you have going into this draft for 2018.
All right, and just a reminder to all listeners, if you haven't already listened to our mock draft episode, which apparently a lot of people seem to love it, again, shout out to the listeners, make sure you go check that out. You can see our entire first round of draft selections. But anyway, bold prediction for this draft, and these might go against what we said in our mock draft. These are just, again, we're bold predictions.
Yeah. These are a little out there.
And it's been a week's time. Honestly, if we did a mock draft right now, it'd probably be different than what we had the first time. So, first bold prediction I have, Saquon Barkley falls out of the top 8 picks, and then possibly ends up with San Francisco or maybe Oakland, Miami, one of those teams, maybe the Broncos if they trade back. But I think Saquon Barkley is going to fall in this draft.
Well, I hope he doesn't go to the Raiders because the Duggernaut's there, and we know that he's going to be the number one.
Yeah, sure. Just like we know Marshawn Lynch is going to be the number one.
Yeah. No, wherever he goes, he's going to be the number one, so I'm not too worried about it. But I would like to see him go to a team that has a already solid start to an offense, and I'm not sure that the Raiders do.
Yeah,
so.
That's why I think a lot of the needs in this draft are going to make a lot of good players fall.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Some good teams are going to get even better. The gap's going to be even further spread when good teams get some of these super talented players that other teams might not need at the moment.
Yeah. One bold prediction that I have is the Patriots trade up with the Broncos, who have the number 5 pick, and take Josh Rosen. I think we had actually. I don't think we had him going in our NFL draft that we did last week, but the Broncos have come out and said, well, I mean, they've got a lot of rumors going around, but they've said that they might be willing to trade out of the number 5 pick, and that wouldn't surprise me at all because they need a lot going, and they don't have a huge need for this one premier player. They just need more draft picks, I think.
Yeah. Same with the Colts. Colts could be a team that
I mean, you could argue that since they released C.J. Anderson that they're going to go for a big name running back, but there's so many good running backs in this draft that I don't think that spending a number 5 pick on one of these running backs that may not be Saquon Barkley.
Again, a nod to Saquon falling potentially.
Exactly. So they may feel like that they'd rather have more picks in 3rd or 4th rounds rather than spending a high pick and getting a player that they may or may not need. So, give me one more bold prediction for this.
All right. Just as you said, same with the Patriots, same player, same team. I got the Patriots actually getting Josh Rosen, but Josh Rosen will be falling to the 23rd pick. Patriots won't even have to trade up to get him. He's going to fall just like Aaron Rodgers did back when he was drafted, and the Patriots are going to get the steal of the draft without question. This is the best quarterback in the draft, in my opinion. Most polished. He's the smartest guy. Maybe rubs people the wrong way, but guess what? New England already has a quarterback that does the same. So, and it's worked out pretty well so far. So I think them getting Josh Rosen, and he could be the successor to Tom Brady. That would be absolutely incredible for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that he's a good fit for the Patriots, and whether they have to trade up for him or not, we will see. But I think that there's at least some likelihood that he will end up playing for the Patriots next year. Well, sitting on the bench for
yeah.
next year.
I mean, Brady's getting older. It just takes one hit, so you never know.
That is very true. That's very true. Any more bold predictions you got? Just throw one out there.
I could. No wide receivers going in the first round. None.
Wow.
That's not. That's why I don't think it's not that bold because I mean, people love position players. The teams love position players, and it might not be.
Everyone needs depth.
Yeah, and I could see a few of these, maybe 3 guys, possibly jumping into the first round and taking wide receivers. But honestly, I mean, I could see absolutely none going if a lot of teams are focusing on defense and other positions and people trading up and those good players falling back to where, like, maybe you would have taken a Calvin Ridley, maybe you would have taken a Cortland Sutton or DJ Moore, but instead you go and take one of these top-tier linebackers that fall in the draft.
Yeah, no, I like it. So moving on to our next category, the safest players in this draft. Obviously, this is something that a lot of managers and the people that have input in who teams draft. This is something that they look at: who's safe and who's risky. We talk about that in fantasy football. There are players that we know have a higher risk rating for whatever reason, whether it's they're part of a running back committee or they're getting old and they may get injured. All of these have risk ratings, and so in your mind, give me one of the safest players in this year's draft.
Well, I think probably the best defensive player in this draft is Bradley Chubb, and I think he's the safest at that. Usually, edge rushers, you can kind of figure out how well they're going to perform in the NFL pretty early on. I mean, you've seen guys in the past Joey Bosa the past couple years, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney. They were all really, really high picks, and Bradley Chubb is about to be in that same category: high pick, defensive end, pass rusher. And I really don't see anything going wrong for Bradley Chubb in his first year as a rookie.
I like it. I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley. I think he's one of the safer players in this draft because he can do just about anything. I feel like he could go into any system and be successful. Whatever you need him to do, I think he can do it. We talk about certain running backs being pass catchers. We talk about certain running backs being goal line running backs. I feel like he has the skill and the talent set to be successful in whatever role he's put into. And so no matter what team's looking at him, if they feel like that they need a solid running back, I feel like you can't get much better than Barkley.
See, I had Barkley down there for a little bit as a safe player, and then I marked him out because I believe in Barkley. I think he is the most talented player in this draft. The only thing I'm thinking from a safety point of view is we've seen really good running backs have terrible starts to their careers, terrible seasons because of terrible offenses and whatever that might entail. Bad passing game, no offensive line. I mean, we've seen it. Todd Gurley 2 years ago had one of the worst fantasy seasons a premier back like him has had
Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, in a long time. We've seen Marshawn Lynch completely fall apart behind a terrible offensive line in Seattle. So good running backs can fall apart. And Saquon Barkley is not necessarily going to completely save your team. Running backs it doesn't work like that anymore in this NFL. Too many defensive fronts are fast and strong, and if you don't have a passing game, it's not going to work out very well. So Saquon Barkley, I still love the guy. Again, I think he's the best player in this draft. It's just if he goes somewhere that the offense isn't too great, I don't think he can be the one who just magically turns it around.
Yeah, but on the same token, based on that logic, you wouldn't have any running back as the safest player.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Give me another safest player.
Minkah Fitzpatrick, sticking with defense. I think he's by far
potential future Buccaneer.
Potentially, that's where we had him going. I think he's by far the best secondary player in this draft. I don't think there's anyone who can hold a candle to him. Yeah. Derwin James is close. Denzel Ward close, but after that, just complete drop off. And Minkah Fitzpatrick can do absolutely anything you ask him to do. So if maybe he's struggling at one position, switch him to another, and I'm sure he can figure that out as well. It might take a little bit of time to get him locked in on maybe one thing if that's the route that a team decides to go. But if you move, you can move him anywhere. And the kid's got heart. He's got incredible ball skills. He's fast, strong, just everything you could ask for in a defensive back.
Yeah, and going back to kind of being able to move him around a lot. Another reason he may be a good fit for the Buccaneers is they tend to move their defensive players around quite a bit. If they're struggling, they have no problem trying them out in dime situations and put him in a linebacker. And he played a little bit of that, and at Alabama he played a little bit of everything. So I feel like his talent set is high enough to where he is a really, really safe player.
Yeah, and it's on the defensive side of the ball. People underestimate the fact that you need a leader on that defensive side of the ball. One or two guys that can really just bring the whole unit together as a whole and completely basically solidify what you're doing on the defensive scheme.
Yep.
So Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of those guys. You just the value that brings alone, even if he might not be the most skilled, which he is. That's the best part about it is he's so smart. And when it comes to smart players, that's really when I put the safe tag on them, when they're that smart and have that talent as well.
Yeah, the Buccaneers missed out on Jalen Ramsey. I don't think they're going to miss this opportunity with a defensive player like Minkah.
They better not.
You got any more safest players?
Quentin Nelson, offensive guard from Notre Dame. You can't go wrong here.
Yeah,
you absolutely can't. This one is a just locked and loaded, surefire pick or safe pick. It's just not a lot of guys like taking offensive guards and linemen that early in the draft. But if you do get him, I will say he's going to be safe. It might not be a flashy pick, but he's going to contribute right away and really solidify the interior of a offensive line.
Yeah, and when you're talking about safe players, that holds a lot of weight. It's not nothing flashy or anything, but you know what you're getting when you draft him, and there's not a whole lot of risk involved. So I like that pick a lot. Moving on to our next category, the biggest bust concern. This is near and dear to all fantasy players' heart, is talking about busts, because it often brings up the most painful memories. So when we talk about busts, there's a lot of factors that go into why a player might bust, or what's kind of the thinking behind that, what makes this a higher risk concern. So what's one of your biggest bust potentials for this year?
Well, I think a lot of players can fall under this category, but just the top 5 QBs, basically. They're probably going to go in the first round, every single one of them. I will pick one guy to that list, Josh Allen. I think he's the riskiest. The inaccuracy has been an issue. The just awareness, his football IQ has been an issue. He played in a conference where there was hardly any competition at all and really didn't perform that well. But he's got a cannon for an arm, and he's got the size, he's got the mobility, speed, pocket presence is pretty good. But just all these quarterbacks, I feel there's bust potential with all of them in some form or fashion. You got Sam Darnold, who has issues with turning the ball over. Baker Mayfield, his size and the little competition he played and just how he played in college. Josh Allen, I just mentioned. Josh Rosen, I think on the field, I think Josh Rosen's about as perfect as you can get, or close to perfect as you can get when it comes to these college quarterbacks. Just off the field, rubs you the wrong way. And not to mention Baker Mayfield off the field as well. That's not too good.
No. Piggybacking on the QB side of it, I'm going to go Lamar Jackson is. I'm still very high on Lamar Jackson, but what teams are going to ask him to do is a very hard feat. He's the prototypical all-star NCAA quarterback right now. He can run, he can throw, he can do all of that. But we compared. I think our NFL comparison was you obviously can't get away from the Michael Vick comparison because of his speed. But he's even smaller than Michael Vick, so his size is going to be an issue. He's he's small for a QB, especially. People keep saying he's a wide receiver, but he didn't even run the 40 at the combine because he wants to be seen as a QB. He doesn't want to play any other position. So I think that when you're talking about transferring his particular skill set to the NFL is something that doesn't happen very often, and we don't find a lot of success in that. You think of other quarterbacks that had success in college, like Tim Tebow, very successful college quarterback, couldn't do anything in the NFL. So I'm afraid it'll turn into one of those situations. So I think he's kind of higher on the bust list for me.
Yeah, I will say that Lamar Jackson. Yes, I agree that him, along with all these quarterbacks, are potential bust in terms of just being an NFL quarterback. Now, from a fantasy perspective, I think there's hardly any bust for Lamar Jackson. If he starts, the fact that he can run around and do the things that he does with his legs,
just based on scoring, how fantasy football is scored in terms of giving rushing yards and rushing touchdowns to QBs. I feel like, the sky's the limit for his fantasy production. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, if Lamar Jackson, if we knew that he was going to be the starter for a team in 2018, right off the bat, where do you think you would take him in terms of quarterbacks in a fantasy draft?
Oh, as far as before or after these guys, or what round you think you would go in?
Just in terms of, let's just say, okay, Deshaun Watson went, I think, when we were drafting last year, he was about 25th to 28th range in terms of all quarterbacks. So do you think Lamar Jackson would be higher or lower than that?
I think he would be, I think he would be a little bit higher because, Deshaun Watson, what he turned into, and people are going to say, they see the similarities between, what an all-star rookie quarterback could be. I think that's going to be a mistake, and that's certainly not the price that I'm going to be willing to pay for him. But I think that he would go around the same range, if not a tick higher.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Do you have any other bust potentials?
Maurice Hurst, I'll mention one defensive guy that I think could possibly bust, not just because he has some issues with just his technique and his size, being a defensive tackle. Obviously, the heart condition being a thing. But I just think he's probably going to go a little bit higher than other defensive tackles that should go in front of him, like Daron Payne and guys like that. So that's my only thing about Maurice Hurst. I will say, kind of going back to my bold prediction of no wide receivers in the first round, I think Calvin Ridley, if he goes to and a lot of wide receivers, same thing, depending on where they go in the draft, if more than one wide receiver goes in the first round and they go to a certain team, they're expected to contribute right away. I'm not so sure all these wide receivers will contribute right away. And again, it's going to be where they land. If Calvin Ridley lands on the Ravens, I don't really trust him to be that valuable in fantasy or just in general because the situation is really not that great. The offense isn't that great.
Yeah.
We've seen them sign 3 other guys, so it might be just shuffling things around, and we might not see that great of production right away from Calvin Ridley. And that can be said for the rest of the wide receivers as well.
Yeah, wide receivers, it's a huge, depth issue. They can easily be beat out by some of these veteran players that you don't hear a whole lot about.
And just think of all the wide receivers that have gone in the first round the past couple of years. You have Mike Williams, who basically just completely nothing. John Ross, nothing. Nothing.
Well, he was hurt.
Well, so was Mike Williams. Nothing yet. Kevin White, again, injured. Rashad Perriman. List goes on and on. And Calvin Ridley's never really had injury concerns, but again, just the fit in offenses, it might not be it might not turn out to be what people think in 2018.
Yep. Moving on to our next category, we've got our favorite late round defensive guys. So all you IDP leaguers out there, you listen up.
Yeah, listen up.
What's one player that you would put in as your favorite late-round defensive guy?
Well, usually when I look at late-round defensive guys, a lot of times I'm either looking for just a freak athlete or I'm looking to the SEC because it's a whole different caliber of football there. The defenses there are just a whole different standard. They're like no other division or conference comes that close except maybe the Big Ten, but those defensive guys in the SEC are nice, which I'm going to pick Sean Dion Hamilton is one of my favorite late-round defensive guys. Sean Dion Hamilton, Alabama linebacker. He had an ACL injury a few years back, which might be one of the reasons he's falling in this draft. But he is very, very, very athletic. He's very smart. He can be he was never really like the middle linebacker type. He was more like a Deion Buchanan for the Cardinals. Just that kind of he can kind of play like a nickel spot, more like a speedster more like a speedster cover guy who can cover the tight ends. And a lot of teams are looking for that now out of their linebackers. They want guys who are fast, who can drop back in coverage. And Sean Dion Hamilton is going to be a very, very good player in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I'm going to go with Shaq Griffin. Obviously, had a fantastic combine, but just looking at what he did in college at Central Florida, I think that he's going to fall late, and I think that any team that picks him up is going to get is going to get a late round jewel. With the 40-yard dash, he ran a 4.38, which is very impressive. His bench press, he did 20 reps. He's strong. He's fast. And I think that he can fit into a lot of defenses out there that are kind of lacking at the linebacker position. Or even if he's just signed for depth, I think he has a really good chance of working his way up the depth chart and getting a lot of playing time this year.
Yeah, he's kind of similar to Sean Dion Hamilton in his style of play and his athleticism. Obviously, with Shaq Griffin, everyone's going to be looking at, this is the guy who only has one hand. Yeah. But, that's going to be the reason he falls, and that's going to be why someone's going to get a really good player late in the draft.
Yeah, definitely. What's another late-rounder guy?
I wrote down two names, two defensive back names. Tony Brown, again, Alabama cornerback, and Armani Watts, Texas A&M safety. I think both of these guys are kind of falling because they really didn't have that much playing time, it seems, at their schools, but they're super talented. There were some discipline issues with both of them, I believe. Definitely with Tony Brown. I'm not 100% sure on Armani Watts, but these are guys, they got some dog in them. They got some fight in them, and I really, really like that out of when you're looking at late-round guys, you're looking at something that stands out. And I think the fact that these guys are ballers. They get angry. They are mad when they play, and hard-hitting, pretty good ball skills. So I think Tony Brown or Armani Watts will be we'll be hearing those names on the defensive side of the ball come next year.
Yep, no, I definitely like that. Next, we've got our favorite late rounders that could be fantasy relevant in 2018. So this is crucial to keep in mind during your upcoming fantasy drafts. I'll start it off with a kind of a more boring pick, but I think Troy Fumagalli. I think that he is going to be
Abundanza.
It's very rare that a rookie tight end makes a huge impact on a team. We're talking about tight ends; they're not the most highly targeted players in the NFL. But you think about the current tight end landscape in terms of fantasy. Like once you get past the top 5, you're pretty much streaming every week anyway. But I think that he has a great skill set coming into the NFL, and I hope that he goes to a team that doesn't have that true number one pass catching tight end. And I think if he goes into the right situation, that he will get the targets, and he's very sure-handed, so I think he's going to have a lot of catches, and could be a good red zone target for a quarterback in the NFL. What's a fantasy relevant late rounder for you?
Well, I had Rashad Penny written down, but I'm kind of going to go off of that because that's not really. I don't think
that's going to be late round.
I think it will be second round.
Yeah.
He might fall into the third. If he falls in the third, I think that's going to be a great pick for anybody. But I'll go with another running back, Darrell Williams from LSU. The other LSU running back, we obviously have Darius Geis, who will most likely go in the first or second round.
Yep.
But Darrell Williams, the forgotten guy at LSU, he's a big, strong back. He's been able to do a lot with the carries he was given, even though they were a little bit limited. But I think Darrell Williams can be a very, very solid piece to an offense. Don't really know if he can carry a full workload yet because, again, we haven't seen that. But Darrell Williams, I think, is a name people need to have on their radars, at least in terms of dynasty drafts and rookie drafts and things like that.
Yep, he is definitely the forgotten running back there. He's living in a shadow, unfortunately. Yeah. So I think that he has a good chance of breaking out. Another guy I had down, Equanimous St. Brown, the 6'5" monster.
Boy.
From Notre Dame.
My boy.
I mean, anyone that's 6'5" and runs a 4.48 has a good... I mean, you have to be able to do something. But even more than that, going back and looking at what he was able to do at Notre Dame and looking at his skills, I think that he's going to fall. I mean, he's not one of these top-tier wide receivers. But I think, given the opportunity this year, he could really stand out. And we saw a similar situation that didn't quite pan out with the Lions. I can't remember his first name, but
who?
My mind just went completely blank.
I don't know who you're talking about.
He was a rookie last year.
With the Lions?
Was it the Lions? Maybe I'm thinking of another team.
I think you're thinking of another team. I don't think the Lions drafted a rookie wide receiver last year.
Oh. Shoot, who am I thinking of?
I don't know. Anyway,
there's some guy that got hurt, and he's tall and big, whatever.
Mike Williams?
No, I'll think of it in a minute. It'll come to me. But no, I think that he has... I mean, if he can develop into an NFL caliber ready before in the training camp and preseason, I think that he can make a huge impact for a fantasy this year. So what's another late rounder guy?
Sticking with wide receiver, I'm going... we didn't talk about him in our wide receiver rankings. We didn't talk about him in our mock draft, but I'm going to talk about him now because we need to. Richie James from MTSU. Shout out to Charles and the Blue Raiders down at in Murfreesboro. But Richie James, he didn't get a lot of playing time this past year. He was dealing with some injuries. But if you go and watch his tape, this is a guy that you can get in maybe the 6th or 7th round that is basically, if you're a team that misses out on DJ Moore, if you had DJ Moore high on your draft board and you miss out on him, this is the next best thing. And the best thing about him is he's going to be so late in the draft. Richie James, he's more of he won't wow you with spectacular catches that much, even though he has pretty good hands. But this is a guy, once he gets the ball in his hands, watch out. It is just explosiveness is at its finest, just beyond what most guys can do with the football in their hands. Golden Tate-esque, DJ Moore-esque, like I said. But if you're a team, I know a lot of GMs are listening to this right now. But if you miss out on DJ Moore, this is the guy. You need to have this guy circled on your draft board. Richie James, MTSU. Remember that.
Straight from the mouth of Bubs.
Yep.
Update. Kenny Golladay. That's who I was
thinking
Kenny
of. Golladay,
and it was the Lions.
Yeah, you're right.
I kept thinking of Joey Galloway.
Golladay had a pretty good year.
But he's 6'4", kind of a bigger guy that we thought that would make a huge impact on the Lions. He was the only big guy that they had, really.
Yeah.
And he kind of let down in terms of fantasy production. I mean, he had a solid rookie year.
He was very streaky.
Yeah, and he's gonna have a good career. But going back to Equanimous St. Brown, I think that there's a lot of comparisons between those two.
Yeah. I also got Auden Tate written down.
Oh, yeah.
Auden Tate, FSU. Obviously, I just talked about Richie James. He's more the over the middle of the field, smaller, quick kind of guy. Auden Tate is going to be the red zone touchdown kind of guy in this NFL draft. Someone's going to get a steal here. because I have a feeling he's going to drop as well later in the draft. He's just a big body guy, box you out kind of guy who can really dominate at the point of the catch. So Auden Tate, I think, will be a very, very nice fantasy relevant target when it comes to 2018.
Yeah, I certainly like Auden Tate. Our last category that we've got is talking about potential steals of this year's draft. These are guys that they may not be late rounders, but they may be players that are overlooked by some teams in the first round, go in the second round. That'll be a big steal for any team that picks him up. So start us off with one potential steal for this year.
Well, again, we're probably going to hit on a few guys that we've already talked about before, but Josh Rosen is without a doubt, if he drops out of the top 5 even, he is going to be a steal in this draft. I can't express how much I like this guy. He's the best quarterback in this draft. He's the most polished. If he annoys you to some point, or if he might seem a little not arrogant, but just out there in terms of people don't like smart people for some reason. He's intelligent, and he has intelligent or the way he speaks is kind of elaborate, I should say, but it's just something we don't see that much in the NFL these days, where guys are interested in other things and they talk on other things, and they have areas outside of football that they like to deal in.
And for some people, that comes off as unfocused.
Yeah, I understand that. But Josh Rosen, the talent is there without a doubt. If he's on the football field, I have no doubt in my mind he's going to be focused. I have no doubt in my mind he's going to perform well. It's just wherever he lands, if he lands outside of the top 5, it is going to be absolutely incredible for him. Mainly because he's probably going to go to a better team if he goes outside the top 5. Potentially the Patriots, like we've been saying the past couple weeks now.
Yeah, and that's a good point to make about these potential steals. If premier players like this fall to good teams, I mean, that's when you're going to see fantasy potential, obviously.
Yeah,
because it's going to be a more developed team. It's going to have a better offense, a better foundation. And if these players can develop to where they're starters, then that could be huge for that player in terms of where they're going in the draft. Potential steal that I have is Rashad Penny. I love Rashad Penny. I think that he's going to fall to the second or probably third or fourth round. I don't know if he goes low as the fourth. I don't know what he's really expected to go, but it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be in the first round. But I think that anywhere he goes, he's going to be. He's at least going to be in the running for that starting job. He has at San Diego State. He did some great things in college. His tape looks solid. I think that he can transfer his skills to the NFL quickly, and I think that he's going to be overlooked by a lot of teams that are focused on a lot of these other premier running backs. But I definitely would not sleep on Rashad Penny.
Yeah, I had one name written down. I crossed it out. I'm gonna change it last minute, but I'm gonna go with Christian Kirk, wide receiver from Texas A&M. I think a lot of teams are kind of sleeping on Kirk now. He was considered up there in terms of a lot of people's draft boards, but now you got, obviously, Calvin Ridley's up there, Cortland Sutton's up there, DJ Moore is the talk of the town nowadays. Yeah. Just those guys moving up, I think, might push Kirk down a little bit, and whoever gets him, he might even fall to the third if things fall that way. But Christian Kirk, I think, is honestly, talking about safe players, we were mentioning earlier, I think Christian Kirk is one of those safer players in this draft.
Yep, which is odd for a wide receiver.
Yes.
They're not too safe.
Yeah.
Kind of like running backs.
Yeah.
Any more potential steals that you've got?
Well, talking about running backs, honestly, there are a ton of late-round running backs that could be potential steals in this draft. Sonny Michel, I think, might fall. His teammate Nick Chubb, I think, is even better than Sonny Michel. He's going to be probably a late-round guy. Ronald Jones. These are guys that might fall out of the second round, potentially maybe even fall back to the fourth round. And teams are going to be very, very reluctant to may be reluctant to draft running backs early in 2018.
I like it.
All right, I'm going to go over a few draft rumors real quick. Just a few things just we've heard through the grapevine here and there. But according to Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network, Kansas City Chiefs are expected to trade up for a cornerback, which is awesome because that's what we had in our mock draft. I think we had Kansas City trading up with the Saints and taking Jari Alexander. So we're basically insiders now. We don't even they're reporting on what we report,
and that really would not surprise me at all. I mean,
no.
Kansas City, they need a cornerback badly.
Yes,
and they need one of the top ones.
Yeah, Denver Broncos are open to trading the number 5 pick again,
which goes along with my bold prediction
and our mock draft. So
yeah.
There were some rumors, or there have been a few rumors with the Broncos and just John Elway saying he's open to trading the top 5 pick. Talking about he might take Barkley if he's there with the number 5 pick. Yeah. Excuse me. But it's just, I don't know. Broncos, I feel like they're basically open for anything right now. I think there's going to be a lot of trading done in this first round.
Yeah. Yep.
Saquon Barkley expected to go to the Giants at number 2, according to Todd McShay. This is, I mean, we had this in our mock draft as well. Kind of goes against my bold prediction. I mean, again, that's why it's bold.
That's why it's bold.
Yeah, but I really don't think. I think if the Giants want to win now and what they're building right now, I think Saquon Barkley is a perfect pick for that. He's going to be a superstar on the Giants if he does go there. Now, the future for the Giants might not be that bright. Obviously, if guys like Eli Manning retire and they don't have a backup plan, if Odell Beckham goes somewhere else and they don't have a backup plan, it might not be great for the Giants in the future. But if the Giants want to win now, then Barkley, I mean, wheels up.
Because that's definitely a position that's been lacking for the Giants, and they're certainly going to try to look to fill that in the draft, whether they think that it's worth the draft capital to go with Saquon or if it's better to wait and get one of those second or third round guys.
Yep. And now, last draft rumor, which is delusional. I was about to.
This is my favorite.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you. I was about to make my bold prediction in line with this. I'll tell you what that would have been here in a second. But Browns considering taking 2 QBs with their first 2 picks.
You can just never have enough QBs.
That honestly, it'd be the most Browns thing ever. Like without question, the most Browns thing ever to do. But I can't think of anything worse to do with your draft picks than that. Like I honestly, you could. I'd be probably more. Actually, no, that's not true because you could eventually trade one of those quarterbacks. But I was about to, what are you thinking? It's like college systems run like this, where they have 2 guys and you don't really know who's going to be right off the bat. Like Alabama's done that for the past couple of years, where going into the start of the season, you might not know who your quarterback is, but. This is in the NFL. No. You have to get one guy ready. You can't get 2 guys taking first team reps back and forth. It's not going to work like that. I guarantee, if that were to happen, I would just write the Browns off for the rest of eternity. Honestly, they need to cancel that franchise if they draft 2 quarterbacks. No, my bold prediction was going to be that the Browns end up taking 3 quarterbacks total in this draft. Obviously,
I thought you were going to say in the first round.
In the first round, yeah. No, honestly, I think they'll take 2 quarterbacks in this draft, regardless.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Obviously, not with the first 2 picks, obviously. But
I sure hope not.
I think they'll take Darnold, number 1, and I think they'll take, I don't know, maybe like Mason Rudolph really late, or maybe Kyle Alita, one of those guys, super late.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, so that's all for the meat and potatoes of the show. Just a few updates I want to talk about. The giveaway, Le'Veon Bell signed jersey giveaway, still going on. You still have time to enter. We will give that away after the NFL draft. We are actually going to have our reveal of our winner on Tuesday of next week. So, and I'll tell you why here in a second. But to enter the giveaway, all you have to do is follow us on Twitter at the423football and retweet the giveaway tweet, which is pinned to the top of our account. A lot of people are retweeting the wrong tweet, so you got to make sure you get the one that's pinned to the top of the account. It's really easy to see. There's a picture of us holding the jersey up. It says giveaway with in all caps with a bunch of quote or exclamation points. Really easy to see. It's got by far the most follows or most retweets and favorites on it. So make sure you go do that if you want to win a Le'Veon Bell signed jersey, which that would look dope.
Who doesn't want to win that?
I want to win that.
I
want to win that.
I wish I could enter.
Yeah, it'd look dope hanging up anywhere in this room right now.
Anywhere.
I don't care.
Right on the fridge.
Yeah, dude. That when you open the fridge, it could be right there. Just every time you open the fridge, you got a Le'Veon Bell jersey sitting there.
Yeah, keep it nice and cool.
All right. And the reason I say we're gonna announce the winner on Tuesday is this weekend we are actually taking a trip. We're going out of town for the weekend, going to Talladega, Alabama. Talladega. Not so much for the race, more for the party, which, here. But since we will be out of town, we will not have time to record on Sunday of next week, and we won't have time to drop the episode on Monday. So we will record on Monday, and we're dropping that on Tuesday. So we'll have plenty of time to analyze what happened over the weekend with the draft and everything like that.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll announce the winner on that episode, and we'll announce it on Twitter, obviously. And whoever wins, we'll contact you and get things squared away. Now, while we're gonna be off the grid, possibly, we're gonna try our very best to tweet out as much as we can this weekend.
As much as Sprint and Verizon.
Yeah. The cell service down there with just that many people, and
not fantastic.
It's not good, especially for my phone. Brett might have to take over Twitter for a while. Not naming any cell services names, but Sprint sucks. Anyway, we're gonna try our best to keep you posted. The draft starts on Thursday, so we'll be tweeting all of the first round. Basically, we're gonna be right there with you. If you want to follow us on Twitter, again, that's at the 423 Football. Friday might be a little bit less action, and then obviously Saturday and Sunday. So that's going to be all for today. Anything else you want to mention before we close this baby out?
Nope, just enter that giveaway because it's a sweet jersey.
That it is.
I'm pretty jealous.
And and definitely keep following us after the giveaway if you want to get in on even more giveaways in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wink, wink.
Yep.
So that's going to be all for today. Follow us on Twitter at the 423 Football. Make sure you like us over on Facebook. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube. Give us a like. Leave your comments and reviews. Thanks for listening. We are the 423 Football Podcast.
Peace out.